For the sake of understanding the setup and controls of a digital mixer, picture this scenario. You and I are running an event with live music. The system includes 2 powered speakers for the audience and 1 powered stage monitor for the performer on stage. The musician on stage will be singing and playing acoustic guitar, and we're going to reinforce that performance for the audience to hear and also record the performance to a laptop. When the musician is taking a break between sets, we will play background music from a tablet or a smartphone. Let's look at how we can set this up on the mixer. We can start by connecting the outputs to the speakers. The main speakers for the audience would typically be connected using the main outs controlled by the main fader, sometimes called the master fader. But this is one key difference between analog and digital mixers. While analog mixers have predefined hard-patched outputs for each output bus, digital mixers allow for more flexibility, especially Yamaha's digital mixers, which have Omni outs. By default, Omni outs 7 and 8 are patched to be the stereo left and right output that's fed by the main fader. This can be changed to be any Omni out you want, or you can choose to stick with the default configuration. I tell you this because if someone else loaded a configuration file before you on a digital console, they might have changed the default patching settings. So if you're having trouble getting sound to come out of the speakers, I recommend navigating to the patch settings of the console you're using to check which outputs correspond to each output bus. Here you can see that the default settings have outputs 1 through 6 patched to mix 1 through 6 respectively. And like I mentioned before, the default settings include the stereo left and right from the main fader patched to Omni output 7 and 8. If I were using the Dante connections, I could swipe over to see which mixes are routed to each Dante channel. And I could change these settings very easily by using the touchscreen. Given that Omni out 7 and 8 are our stereo mix, I'm going to connect those physical outputs on the rear panel of the console to the left and right powered speakers on stage using 2 XLR cables. Again, these outputs are controlled by the main fader. You can think of this fader as the volume control for the main mix. And you'll find an on-off button just above it that mutes everything coming out of the main outs. In a moment, I'll show you how to route input sources to the main speakers. But first, let's set up the stage monitor for the performer so they can hear themselves play. We can set up a stage monitor using one of the 6 auxiliary mixes available on the DM3. Let's use mix 1, which is currently patched to Omni out 1. To do this, we can connect Omni out 1 on the rear of the console to the powered floor monitor on stage using another XLR cable. Similar to the main stereo outputs being controlled by the main fader, the mix 1 output level is controlled by the mix 1 fader, which can be found in the output fader bank. Next, we need to set up the recording. There are a few ways that you could do this with this particular mixer. Option 1 would be to use a USB storage device connected to this USB port right here. This allows us to record 2 channels, which are customizable in the record and playback menu within the settings. For example, I could record stereo left and right to a USB flash drive. Option 2 would be to connect the DM3 to a laptop via USB and use the audio interface that's built into the console. This would allow me to record up to 18 tracks into the DAW and play back up to 18 tracks out of the DAW. If we chose this scenario, we could record each input to a separate track in the DAW, maybe routing input 1 through 16 to USB 1 through 16 in the output settings. Plus, we could send the stereo mix to USB 17 and 18 and record a stereo mixdown for a stream to YouTube or another platform. Finally, option 3 would be to create a mix that could be sent out of the console as analog audio and connected to a separate recording device like an audio interface or a portable recorder. For option 3, we could use a pair of mixes, such as mix 5 and 6. To make them a pair on this mixer, I just go to the settings, go to bus setup, and set 5 and 6 to be stereo And I'll also link the pan control. So the pan settings for this submix will follow the pan settings for the main mix. The last step for option 3 would be to connect the Omni Out 5 and 6 on the back of the mixer to the external recording or streaming device using XLR cables or XLR to 1/4-inch TRS adapters. And just as the volume of our stage mix is controlled by the Mix 1 fader, the output level of our new stereo 5 and 6 mix is controlled with the 5 and 6 faders. As a side note, there is a more advanced way to set up a live stream using the matrix outputs to potentially make your live stream mix sound better. But that's a bit outside the scope of this video. So if you'd like me to make a video to help you make your mixes in the room sound good without ruining your live stream mix, leave a comment below.